I want to give a shout out to Mr. John P., a member of the Fresh Lounge. Thank you so much, John, for being a member of the Fresh Lounge. If you guys don't know what that is, I recommend you know what that is. And how do you do that? There's a video up here you can check out, or you can just click the join button near the subscribe button down below. It'll take you to where you can get more information about becoming a channel member and directly supporting what we do here at Stay Fresh Productions and getting some cool perks in the process. One of those cool perks is I prioritize the suggestions in terms of video content from channel members, and John loosely suggested this idea for a video and I just kind of took it and ran with it. So John, thank you so much for this cool idea. As you can see, John basically asked about doing a video on fragrances that you should try before trying other fragrances, something of that nature. And I think maybe in regards to flankers, I decided to focus on that, but kind of broaden the scope a bit. So yes, we're talking about flankers as you saw in the thumbnail, but we're also talking about looser relationships, not directly within a brand, but maybe tied to a genre or a type of fragrance that has inspired other fragrances. We're talking about seminal originators that you should try before you try these other more popular fragrances that you'll see everywhere across YouTube. Now, I'm not implying that you need to be a collector to appreciate this hobby. This is not what I'm talking about. But I do believe that it will only serve you with insight to try what I'm calling originators, if possible, before trying their flankers or inspired scents, and especially clones associated with a particular collection or fragrance. At the very least, this will give you an understanding into why flankers smell the way they do in relation to their originals, or why more inspired, more loosely genre-based fragrances smell the way they do, again, in relation to what came before them. And I recommend getting samples of these originators. I'm not saying you need to go buy them and then go buy their flankers or anything else. No, again, this is not about being a collector. This is just about broadening your palette, broadening your understanding of what you're putting up your nose. Also, it goes without saying that some of the originators I'll be talking about could be tied back to even earlier fragrances that you might call originators. And what I have to say about that is this rabbit hole is eternal. If you wish to dig deeper, you're on your own. There's going to be links to try all of the originators down below, but with that, let's dive right into this. First up, we have one of my absolute favorite fragrances that I do recommend quite often. I also recommend the reason why it exists almost as often these days. We're talking about Terre Hermes Eau Givrée. This is a gorgeous summer fragrance. By itself, we can look at it in an insulated way to say, yes, this is a sharp, cooling, fresh, grapefruit, spicy, woody fragrance that is super uplifting, smells icy, smells frozen. It's wonderful all by itself, yes. But if you wish to dive a little bit deeper, and even if you've already tried this, if you have not yet tried the original Terre Hermes, I kind of understand why, because I was very hesitant to try this, and when I did try it, it was not my thing. I ran for the hills. I've since come back from those hills to this fragrance, and I'm happy to say that it is incredible, and I do believe it is a timeless masterpiece. More about timeless masterpieces here. But Terre Hermes Eau de Toilette from 2006, you gotta try this. No matter what anyone has said about it, no matter how many reviews you've read or heard of people saying it smells like a dirty orange, that does not do this fragrance justice. You need to try it for yourself. Again, this is not me guaranteeing you're gonna love it as much as I do, especially at first spray. You might have to grow into this one, and I can't easily say that Eau Givrée is way more accessible than the original EDT if you have very little experience with vetiver fragrances. But man, you got to try this if you haven't already. I know many of you have, but I know some of you have not, and you might have this fragrance and have never tried this one. So this is your subtle, friendly, loving reminder to do your due diligence, do yourself a service, get you a sample of Terre Hermes Eau de Toilette. Again, I'm going to link it down below. Check it out. Before you try Cartier Declaration Parfum, which is an incredible fragrance if you're asking me, it's definitely not for everyone. Some of you guys are going to think this smells like cooking spices. I totally get it. To me, this is super elegant. This is resinous leather with bitter orange and cardamom and lots of cumin. There's a dry but also kind of fresh spicy quality to it, but it is pretty leathery. It's a little bit sweet in the way that it looks here, kind of an ambery like sweetness, but that cumin is up front and center. People say it smells like BO, so I get it. No guarantee you're gonna like this, but before you try it and before before you also try the D'un Soir flanker, which is unfortunately so hard to find, you must try the original. There's a reason why the OG is still being manufactured and sold by Cartier directly. It's on their website along with this one, and at least at this point in time, the hot fresh flanker, which I actually have not yet tried. Shame on me. I plan on checking that out at some point. But the OG from 1998 is still being made. There's a reason, because this is a seminal fragrance. It has inspired many other things beyond this collection, but at the very least, if you do plan on appreciating what Cartier has done throughout the lineage of designer fragrances in the past few decades, you gotta check out this wondrous fragrance created by Jean-Claude Helena. This is fresh, spicy. This is going to be a lot more accessible than the Parfum. Still get a little bit of cumin in here, still a tiny bit of that funk, so to speak, even though to me it smells clean, fresh, very masculine, classy, a classy type freshness, more sophisticated, more grown up, but not necessarily old man or mature or dated or old fashioned. None of that. This is timeless. This is specific, and specificity is polarizing. I always say that, which is why get a sample. Don't go ahead and just blind buy it. Again, no guarantees you'll love this stuff, but man, you gotta know. Before you dive into this, before you dive into the D'un Soir, which is quite a departure in a beautiful way, check out the original Cartier Declaration. Link down below. We got Tom Ford Beau de Jour. This is one of the most popular modern Fougere fragrances on the market from a designer brand. It is wonderful stuff. There's a reason why people really dig this. It is a little bit polarizing because it does purposefully pay homage to the lineage of this genre, the Fougere, the barbershop Fougere, whatever you want to call it. There is a deep lineage with this in perfumery. And this is a wonderful fragrance. If you want to hop right to it, I can't stop you. Go right ahead. But I do recommend that you do your nose a service and you get yourself a sample of the first technically Fougere fragrance ever created back in the 1800s. This is not the original formulation, of course. This was revamped in 2010 by perfumer Rodrigo Flores Roux. This is Fougere Royale from Houbigant. And yes, this is the father, the grandfather, whatever you want to call it, of the Fougere genre. This was the first one to hit the market. If we did not have Fougere Royale, we would not have Tom Ford Beau de Jour and all of the other Fougere fragrances in this genre. It's classified as being aromatic and fresh, a little bit herbal, maybe citrusy, but having a sweet, kind of creamy, warm component from tonka bean or coumarin, maybe some leather or moss and woods in the background. In the barbershop vein, it's meant to depict the smells and the sensations you get out of being in a barbershop, being freshly shaven, that type of vibe. There's just a masculine sophistication to it. This is not so much in the barbershop lane. This was before that was really a thing. This is definitely more on the herbal side. Herbal, woody, a little bit sweet, yes. Definitely has this sophisticated mossiness to it that I think is just timeless and very attractive. Get yourself a sample of this one, guys. Even if you have this and have tried it, once again, get yourself an idea of the Fougere originator. This is not a cheap fragrance, by the way, so I can't guarantee a sample will be necessarily cheap, but it will be affordable and definitely more so than just grabbing a bottle of this. Check out Fougere Royale and let me know down in the comments if you've done so already. Up next, we have one of my absolute favorite aromatic Fougeres once again, but this fragrance more closely resembles an older fragrance that is not technically a Fougere. We'll get to that in a second, but one of my favorites from Roja Parfum is Scandal Pour Homme Parfum Cologne. This is, again, technically an aromatic Fougere, so I recommend you check out Fougere Royale before trying this one as well. This has a little bit more funk, so to speak, a little bit more edge, almost animalic in a way than Fougere Royale has, but this is still very fresh, lots of lemon, very juicy and bright, almost mouth-watering in a way, clean, has that barbershop feel. It's just a masculine, classy freshness. But before you try this, if you have not already, you got to check out from 1966 Dior Eau Sauvage EDT. Once again, this is not the original formulation, but there's a reason why Dior is still producing this fragrance after all these years. They are still putting it out there on the market. It's still in all the retail stores because it's a classic. It is timeless. It does not smell like the 1960s. It's a fairly simple fragrance, but with so much identity to it. It is a citrus aromatic, so there are herbs that are kind of green smelling. There's like a fresh, spicy, citrusy quality. It's kind of bright and uplifting, but there is this grounded mossiness to it. Almost maybe a little bit mature leaning in a way. There's a little bit more depth to it than your average modern freshie for sure. But again, while still being fairly simple, it's also quite versatile. This is a great one for the spring and summer. If you want a more classy, fresh vibe, this is a great one to go with. And it does smell similar to Scandal Pour Homme. I can't say that this absolutely inspired Scandal, but these two have always smelled similar. similar. If anything, this is maybe just a little bit oomfier. There's more complexity. Get your nose on this beautiful citrus aromatic from Dior. If you have not already, get a little bit more acquainted with the history of what you're smelling. It'll just further inform your outlook on fragrances moving forward. Check out Dior Eau Sauvage Eau de Toilette. And finally, from the Guerlain L'Homme Ideal collection, the Extreme. A lot of people are after this one, and especially because I think it's not that easy to find. Not sure about that. I know there was some toughness getting it for a while, but maybe that's changed at this point. But it's lovely stuff. It's really grown on me. It was not my favorite when I first tried it. The Intense is still my favorite over this one, but I understand the appreciation of it. It's warm, spicy with cinnamon, maybe a little bit boozy, a little bit dark and fruity with plum. It's woody. It has that bitter almond, so it's kind of creamy. It's sweet. It's warm. It's very gentlemanly while being a little bit alluring. But guys, you probably already know where this is going. If you know this collection, you got to try the OG. Try the OG L'Homme Ideal. This was a fragrance that I was interested in not long after it first came out. I think it was 2014 when it came out, and it was a couple years later when I finally came to the fragrance game that I heard about it and wanted to get it. I tried to actually blind buy it, ended up getting L'Homme Ideal Cologne instead, and that became a love for me as well. Unfortunately, you can't get that one anymore, but this one is still available. It is the reason why we have this beloved collection. If you have not yet done the service for yourself to try the original, which has this sweet cherry vibe with leather, that tonka bean, bitter almond feel. So it is sweet and creamy. Although it is quite sweet, it does have this masculine woodiness to it, and it has a lightness to it. It has a transparency, being an eau de toilette, that makes it very easy to wear, especially for evenings. You could wear this evening time all year round, summertime even. Because it's a little bit lighter, it wears beautifully, especially with a summer breeze. Whew, they better look out. This is handsome stuff. L'Homme Ideal from Guerlain, the eau de toilette, the OG. Again, give it its flowers. Check it out if you haven't. Links to a sample down below. I want to know what you think of these originators. If you've tried them, let me know down in the comments. If you have not tried them, once again, there's going to be links to them down below, and I'll also link the other fragrances. Again, these are great second steps, so to speak, after experiencing the originators. They're still amazing fragrances. I'm not trying to dissuade you from trying them. I'm just saying dig a little bit deeper, and these originators are a means of doing so. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace. I'll see you in the next one.